If you think Toyota just sells cars, you are wrong.
Toyota doesn't just sell cars, they occupy territory. They produce 10 million vehicles a year. They have more cash in the bank than most small countries. They destroyed the American auto industry, not with a bang, but with a whisper. But in 1945, Toyota wasn't a titan. It was a pile of rubble. The company was bankrupt. The factories were bombed. The founder was dying. The Americans were occupying the country. By all logic, Toyota should be a footnote in history. So how did a failed loom manufacturer from a defeated island rise up to humiliate the giants of Detroit? This is the story of the Empire of Silence.
To understand the car, you must first understand the cloth. Our story begins in the late 19th century with Sakichi Toyoda. He wasn't an engineer, he was a peasant carpenter, but he was obsessed with one thing: efficiency. He watched his mother struggle with a hand loom, weaving fabric thread by thread. It hurt him to watch her work so hard for so little, so he locked himself in a shed and invented. He built the Type G automatic loom. It was a masterpiece, but it had one feature that would change the world. If a single thread broke, the machine stopped automatically. It didn't keep producing defective cloth, it just stopped. This concept, Yidoka, is the DNA of Toyota. Don't build junk. If there is a problem, stop everything and fix it. Sakichi sold the patent rights to a British company for a massive fortune. He gave the money to his son, Kiichiro Toyoda, and gave him a terrifying instruction. I built the looms, now you build the car. Kiichiro was terrified. Japan had no steel, no rubber, no oil, and Ford and GM were already flooding the Japanese market. Trying to build a car in Japan in the 1930s wasn't business, it was suicide. In 1936, they released the Model AA, and to put it mildly, it was garbage. The windows fell out, the door handles snapped, it was underpowered and overpriced. If you bought a Toyota in 1936, you were considered a fool. Then came the war. The military seized the factories. Toyota was forced to build trucks for the Imperial Army. When the war ended in 1945, Japan was nuclear ash. Kiichiro Toyoda looked at his factory. It was destroyed. The economy had collapsed. Inflation was at 700%. By 1949, Toyota couldn't pay its workers. The union revolted. 1,600 employees went on strike. They were burning effigies of management at the gates. Kiichiro Toyoda, the man who carried his father's dream, did the only thing his honor would allow. He resigned. He took total responsibility for the failure. He walked away from the company his family built, and 2 years later, he died of a broken heart. Toyota was headless, bankrupt, and defeated. But in the shadows of the factory floor, there was another man, a man who didn't care about honor. He cared about survival. His name was Taiichi Ohno, and he was about to declare war on waste. Taiichi Ohno was not a nice man. He was a tyrant. He visited America in the 1950s to see how Ford did things. He wasn't impressed. He saw massive warehouses full of unsold parts. He saw waste everywhere. But then he visited an American supermarket. He watched how customers took what they needed and the store only restocked what was taken, just in time. Ohno realized, why are we building cars nobody has ordered yet? He went back to Japan and tore the factory apart. He created the Toyota Production System, TPS. He would walk onto the factory floor, draw a circle on the ground with chalk, and make a manager stand in it for 8 hours.
"Stand here," he would say, "and watch. Tell me where the waste is." He gave every worker on the line a cord, the andon cord. If a worker saw a loose screw, they pulled the cord. The entire factory stopped. In Detroit, if you stopped the line, you were fired. At Toyota, if you didn't stop the line, you were fired. While GM was focused on pumping out volume, Toyota was focused on perfection. They were building a machine that couldn't break. But they had a problem. They were the masters of Japan, but in America, they were a joke.
In 1957, Toyota tried to enter the US market with the Toyopet. It was a disaster. It shook at 60 miles per hour. The engine couldn't handle American highways. They had to pull it from the market. Ford and Chevy laughed. They looked at these tiny tin can Japanese cars and went back to building massive V8 muscle cars. But in 1973, the laughter stopped. The oil crisis hit. Overnight, gas prices quadrupled. Americans looked at their 12-mile-per-gallon Mustangs and realized they couldn't afford to drive them. They needed something cheap. They needed something efficient. They needed a Toyota. The Corolla wasn't sexy. It was an appliance, but it started every morning. It sipped gas, and it never ever broke down. By 1980, Japan had surpassed the US as the world's leading car producer. Detroit was in ruins. The city that laughed at the Toyopet was now begging the government for protection against the Toyota invasion. They tried to copy Toyota. They tried to use robots. They tried to use computers, but they couldn't copy the culture. You can buy a robot. You cannot buy the soul of a worker who has been trained to stop the line for a single loose bolt. Toyota won the war, but victory has a price. In the 2000s, they became so obsessed with becoming number one that they forgot the lesson of the loom. They grew too fast. Quality slipped. In 2010, they had to recall millions of cars. It was a humiliating reminder. But true to their nature, they stopped the line. They fixed it. They returned to Kaizen, continuous improvement. Today, Toyota is looking at a new war. Electric vehicles, Tesla, China. The critics say Toyota is too slow. They say they are missing the EV revolution. But remember, they said Toyota was too slow in 1936. They said they were a joke in 1957. Toyota does not move fast. They do not break things. They wait, they perfect, and then, when the moment is right, they overwhelm. The tortoise beat the hare once. I wouldn't bet against him doing it again.